The days after the latest pregnancy news passed, in a blur of shock and frustration, Lola could hardly believe what was happening to her. She had done everything right, everything within her power to prevent this exact situation. Yet it felt as though her life was slipping further out of control with each passing day. She felt betrayed by her own body, and no explanation could offer her any comfort. The frustration gunned at her constantly, overshadowing everything else. Every time she looked at her children, she felt a pang of resentment, a reminder of the sacrifices she hadn't chosen to make. Femi continued to be her rock, but she saw in his eyes a growing sadness, an unspoken disappointment. He longed for the warm, driven woman he had married. Yet, Lola felt she was slipping away, lost in a life that seemed to demand too much from her. She went through her days in a kind of trance, fulfilling her duties at work, but the fire she once had was gone. She was no longer the ambitious woman she had been. She kept her distance from her colleagues, afraid that any sign of vulnerability would only lead to more pity or judgment. The very thought of it was unbearable. The cycle of exhaustion returned with the pregnancy, more intense than before. Lola spent sleepless nights, feeling restless and lost, unable to come to terms with this new reality. She grew irritable and impatient, snapping at Femi and even at the children. The twins had once been a source of pride for her, proof of her ability to have it all. But now, with the new babies, they felt like reminders of the path she could no longer follow. As months passed, Lola felt more and more isolated. She avoided family gatherings, afraid of the judgment she might see in her mother's eyes, of the pity in her sisters' voices. Sulu in particular had reached out several times, offering help, but Lola brushed her off, too proud to accept the kindness she had once refused to show. Her mother, sensing something was deeply wrong, finally managed to corner her during a visit. "Lola, you don't look well," she said, her voice filled with concern. "I know you're strong, but no one can do everything alone. Maybe it's time you slow down." Lola forced a smile, assuring her mother that she was fine, that everything was under control. But deep down, she knew her mother's words held a painful truth. She felt as though she were drowning, pulled under by the forces beyond her comprehension. The life she had once crafted so carefully was now unrecognizable, replaced by a world of demand she couldn't meet. When her mother suggested they speak to a traditional healer, Lola dismissed the idea outright. She wasn't one to entertain superstitions or seek out spiritual help. She believed in hard work, discipline, and planning. But as the months wore on, her mother's suggestion lingered in the back of her mind, a small whisper that grew louder each time she faced yet another reminder of her unraveling plans. Finally, unable to bear the strain any longer, Lola agreed to visit the healer. She convinced herself it was merely to appease her mother, a last resort to end the endless cycle of pregnancies. Yet a part of her, a part she barely acknowledged, was desperate for answers, for anything that could restore the life she had lost. The healer's home was humble, tucked away on the edge of the village. It was a place Lola would have never visited under normal circumstances. She followed her mother inside, her skepticism evidenced in her stiff posture and pursed lips. The healer, an elderly man with a calm, knowing gaze, motioned for them to sit. He studied Lola for a long moment before speaking, his voice soft but firm. "You are carrying a heavy burden, my child," he said, his words sending a shiver through her. "One that was not given to you by chance." Lola frowned, her initial skepticism turning to discomfort. "I don't understand," she replied, her voice brittle. The healer continued, his gaze unwavering. "The path you walk is not an ordinary one. You have been touched by a curse, a consequences of words spoken and action taken, a curse that has taken hold of your life and will not let go until certain things are made right." Lola's heart pounded, a mixture of disbelief and joy swelling within her. "A curse?" she repeated, struggling to process the idea. She wanted to reject it, to laugh it off as nonsense. Something about the healer's calm certainty held her captive. He nodded slowly. "There was a time when you spoke harshly to a woman in need, someone who came to you for help, only to be turned away. You judged her, condemned her, for choices you did not understand. In her pain, she caused you to feel the same helplessness she felt, to carry the weight of what she could not control. A memory surfaced in Lola's mind, unbidden the sharp. She saw herself standing in the marketplace, a young mother with a child, in tow, begging her for help. She remembered the anger, the disdain she had felt. If she cannot afford to care for a child, then don't bring one into this world, she had told the woman, her voice cutting and final. The memory sent a chill through her as she felt a deep shame creeping over her, a discomfort she couldn't shake. She had dismissed this woman's pain so easily, confident in her own choices, her own ability to avoid mistakes. The healer's voice broke through her thought. To end this cycle, you must seek forgiveness, not only from the one who caused you, but from those around you. This burden will not lift until you truly understand the weight of compassion. Lola's mind swirled with disbelief and guilt, her pride warring with the truth she couldn't deny. She had always prided herself on her independence, her strength, her ability to forge her own path. But now, faced with the consequences of her own actions, she felt a crushing vulnerability, an awareness of how fragile her carefully constructed life had become. The healer's words lingered long after she left, haunting her thoughts as she returned to her life. She began to notice the way she had pushed people away, the harshness in her words, the lack of empathy in her actions. Each memory brought a pang of regret, a realization that she had allowed ambition to cloud her humanity. But the path to forgiveness was not an easy one. Pride and fear held her back, even as the weight of her choices pressed upon her. Each attempt to reconcile felt forced, her apologies coming out, stilted and hollow. She felt trapped between the woman she had been and the one she needed to become, unable to bridge the gap. Lola's first steps towards change came one evening as she sat alone, the house quiet around her. She picked up the phone and dialed to a new number, her fingers trembling as she waited for her sister to answer. When Tolu picked up, Lola hesitated, struggling to find the words, but slowly, painfully, she began to speak. Her voice heavy with regret she had kept buried for so long. "I was wrong, Tolu," she murmured, her voice barely a whisper. "I judged you, but I see now that I didn't understand that I was cruel when you needed kindness." There was a long silence on the other end, and Tolu's voice soft and forgiving. "We all make mistakes, Lola, but it's never too late to make things right." Her sister's forgiveness felt like a weight lifting, a first step on the path she had resisted for too long. It was only the beginning, but for the first time, Lola felt a glimmer of hope, a sense that perhaps there was a way to rebuild, to make peace with a life she had lost. She still had much to face, much to amend, but she ended the call, a quiet resolve settled within her. She would seek forgiveness, she would learn compassion, and perhaps in time she would find the strength to reshape her life, not as she had planned, but as it was meant to be. Lola found it difficult to let go of pride. She began with her family, knowing that her judgment had left a bitter trail. Tolu in particular had endured the brunt of her disdain, and while Tolu had accepted her apology, Lola sensed that true forgiveness would require more than words. Determined, she decided to spend more time with her sister, offering help with her nephew and trying to rebuild the bond that had strained by years of harsh words and indifference. At first, Tolu was cautious, unsure if Lola's change of heart was genuine, but gradually Lola's sincerity began to show. She spent weekends at Tolu's house, helping with chores, caring for her nephew, and listening, really listening, as her sister shared her own dreams and fear. Their conversations were tentative. At first, both of them aware of the rift that had grown between them. But slowly, the walls between them began to crumble. Tolu shared stories of her struggles as a single mother, the heartbreak of abandonment, the difficulty of raising a child alone. For the first time, Lola saw her sister not as a cautionary tale, but as a person with her own challenge and triumph. One evening, as they sat in Tolu's small living room, Lola found herself confessing the frustration she had felt with her own life, the pregnancy, the lost career, opportunities, the crushing weight of expectations she could no longer meet. Tolu listened, her expression soft with understanding. "I think I understand now," Lola admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "All those years, I thought I knew what was best for everyone. But I see now that I was blind, that I judged you and others without ever trying to understand." Tolu placed a gentle hand on her sister's shoulders. "Life has a way of humbling us, Lola, but it's not too late. We can always start over." The conversation left Lola feeling lighter, as though a burden had been lifted. Yet she knew there was still more to be done. Her judgment had extended beyond her family, affecting people she barely knew, but had dismissed so easily. Following the healer's advice, she began to seek out the women she had once turned away with callous words. Some were familiar faces from the market, other mothers who had come to her in times of need, approaching them with painful yet pride, constantly rearing its head, reminding her of who she once was. But each apology, each humble interaction felt like another step towards healing. One of the hardest visits was to the young mother named Amara, who had once come to Lola in tears asking for help to feed her children. Lola remembered the encounter with clarity, the way she had told Amara, "If you cannot afford to feed a child, why bring one into this world?" Now, face to face with the same woman, she saw the pain her words had caused, etched into Amara's weary expression. Lola took a deep breath, her voice unsteady as she spoke. "I came to apologize. I was wrong to judge you, Amara. I thought I understood your situation, but I didn't. I'm so sorry." Amara's eyes softened, her expression unreadable. She was silent for a long moment, then finally spoke, her voice steady. "We all have our own battles, Lola. I appreciate your apology. Life isn't easy for any one of us, but sometimes a little kindness is all we need to get through." The forgiveness that Amara offered wasn't instant, but her acceptance of Lola's apology marked a turning point. Lola began to understand that true change would require not only making amends, but also finding ways to give back. She wanted to do more than just say the right words. She wanted to live in a way that reflected the lessons she had learned. Gradually, Lola became involved with a local shelter for struggling mothers, a place that offered support and resources to women in need. At first, she volunteered hesitantly, unsure of how her presence would be received. But over time, her commitment grew, and she found herself drawn to the stories of the women she encountered. Each story was a reminder of the struggle she had once dismissed so easily, a testament to the resilience and courage she had once overlooked. Through her work at the shelter, Lola began to rebuild herself pieces by pieces. She spent hours helping women find housing, arranging childcare, offering financial advice, and sometimes simply listening. Her approach softened her judgment, replaced by empathy and understanding. For the first time in her life, she felt a sense of purpose that extended beyond her own ambition. At home, Femi noticed the change in her. He had always been supportive, quietly hoping that she would find her way back to the warmth and compassion he knew she was capable of. Now he saw the transformation unfold, her renewed dedication to their family, evident in the way she interacted with the children, the patience and love she had once struggled to show. The twins, too, sensed the difference. Lola spent more time with them, reading bedtime stories, helping with homework, taking them on outings. She began to see them not as obstacles, but as part of the life she had chosen. Her love for them deepened, her resentment fading as she embraced her role as a mother. Yet, despite all the progress, Lola knew that one final act of reconciliation remained. She had not yet faced the woman who had placed the curse on her, the woman who, in her moments of pain, had set this journey into motion. With a mixture of apprehension and resolve, Lola asked the healer for guidance, explaining her desire to seek out the woman. The healer nodded, sensing her sincerity, and agreed to help her find the woman who had once cursed her. The meeting took place in a small, quiet corner of the marketplace, far from the busyness of Lola's usual world. The woman, older now and wearier by the years of struggle, stood silently as Lola approached. For a moment, Lola hesitated, her pride and fear surfacing once more, but she pushed them aside, knowing that this was the chance to finally put the past to rest. "I came to ask for your forgiveness," she said, her voice steady. "Years ago, I judged you without understanding, without compassion. I thought I knew better, that I was somehow above the struggles you faced. I was wrong and I'm sorry. The woman studied her expression unreadable. Lola braced herself for anger, for rejection, but instead, the woman spoke softly, her tone free of bitterness. We all make mistakes, child. It's how we learn. If you have truly changed, then the curse is lifted. Go in peace. The words washed over Lola, a wave of relief mingled with bitterness, realization of how far she had come and how far she had yet to go. She returned home that day feeling lighter, free from the burden she had carried for so long. Her journey was far from over, but she was no longer bound by the rigid expectations she had once set for herself. Instead, she found herself embracing the unpredictability of life, finding joy in her family, fulfillment in her work at the shelter, and the peace in the knowledge that she had done all she could to make amends. Lola's life would never be the same, but for the first time she felt truly free. Free to be the woman she was meant to be, with the flaws, her strengths, and her newfound passion. Months passed, and Lola's life settled into a new rhythm, one that was softer, more balanced, and rooted in a sense of purpose beyond personal achievement. The ambitious drive that had once propelled her now found a different outlet. She continued her work at the shelter, devoting her time and energy to supporting mothers and families in need. But it wasn't just a duty, it had become a calling. At home, the changes were more profound. Femi and the children noticed her new warmth, her willingness to engage and be present. She became a constant part of the twins' life. Her attention no longer divided by distance goals and ambitions. Instead, rushing her time with them, she took moments slowly, savoring the laughter, the triumph, and even challenges. One evening, as the family sat for dinner, Femi glanced at Lola with a quiet smile. He could see in her the woman he had always believed she could be, a woman who had finally embraced all parts of her life. He reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "I don't think I've told you this enough lately, but I'm proud of you," he said, his voice filled with warmth. Lola's eyes softened as she looked at him, a sense of peace washing over her. She knew how much Femi had stood by her, supporting her through the twists and turns, even when she had been difficult, even when she had pushed him away. "Thank you, Femi," she replied quietly, "for everything. I don't think I would have found my way here without you." Their life together had become simpler, less defined by the lofty ambitions, and more every day, joy they shared. She felt a deep gratitude for her family, realizing that they were the greatest source of her strength and happiness. Her work at the shelter had opened her heart, teaching her the values of humanity, compassion, and the importance of connection. In her career too, she found a new path. Though she had once seen herself as destined for the top of her industry, her priorities had shifted. Rather than chasing the highest position or the largest paycheck, she now focused on using her skills to help others. She took on a role as an advocate for women in her field, creating opportunities and support networks for working mothers. Her own journey had shown her how challenging the path could be and wanted to make it easier for others. The support she provided was practical and personal. She began organizing workshops for women, offering career guidance, financial advice, and encouragement to those balancing family and professional life. Her work became an extension of the lessons she had learned, a way to give back and help others avoid the mistakes she had once made. As she immersed herself in this new chapter, her relationship with her family grew stronger. Her mother, once the most gentle critic, now looked at her with pride and warmth. They shared conversations about life, faith, and the choices that shaped her, and Lola listened with humility she had never possessed before. Her mother's advice no longer felt like interference. It had become a source of wisdom and comfort. One weekend, Lola and Tolu decided to take their children on a picnic together. Sat on a blanket under the shade of a tree, they watched the kids play, their laughter filling the air. Tolu leaned over, nudging her sister with a grin. "I never thought I would see you this relaxed, Lola. You used to be so intense." Lola laughed, nodding. "I was, and I thought I had everything figured out back then." She paused, a taut expression crossing her face. "Funny how life teaches you in ways you don't expect." Tolu's face softened. "You've come a long way. We are all proud of you, you know." The words touched Lola deeply, a reminder of the journey she had undertaken, the mistakes and growths that had come from them. She realized that her family had never stopped supporting her, even in the moments where she had lost herself. They had been there waiting, ready to welcome her back with open arms. And as the months turned into years, Lola found a sense of fulfillment that went beyond the title or status. Her life was no longer defined by achievement, but by the love and purpose she felt each day. Her family, her community, her work at the shelter filled with days with meaning. Reflecting on her journey, Lola often thought about the woman in the marketplace who had once approached her in need. She had come to see that moment not just as a mistake, but as a turning point, the moment that had set her on a path of self-discovery. It had been a difficult journey, filled with challenges and humbling realization, but it had brought her to a place of true peace. The cause that had once felt like a burden had transformed her, teaching her lessons she could not have learned otherwise. She was no longer driven by pride or the need for control. Instead, she lived with gratitude, accepting life's unpredictability and finding joy in the present. One evening, as Lola tucked her children into bed, her daughter reached up, wrapping her small hands around her neck. "Mommy, I love you so much," she whispered, her words filled with innocence and warmth. Lola felt a lump in her throat, her heart full as she held her daughter close. "I love you too, my darling, more than you ever know." As she stood in the doorway, watching her children drift to sleep, she realized that she had finally found what she had been searching for all along. Not in titles or accomplishments, but in simple, beautiful moments of love, family, and connection. This was her legacy, one she would carry forever with humility and grace. And as she closed the door, a smile on her face, she knew that her journey was only just beginning. The end. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed this story. You can comment below what you have learned from this story. What I in particular have learned is that you shouldn't be quick to judge people because you do not know what they're passing through. And be very careful with how you talk to people because you don't know, it might backfire at you. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next story. Please do not forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe as it helps me grow. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, bye. I love you. Mwah. Thank you so much for watching till the end. Please click on the subscribe button to support us. Turn on the post notification to get notified when I upload a new story. Like, share, and comment your thoughts. Till then, bye.